So we're just thinking, as the lines say, the first two lines are for those of us who are already identifying ourselves as Buddhists, relying on the teachings. So those two lines refer to us, we take refuge in the Buddha Dhamma Sangha. And then the second two lines are stating our motivation, this altruistic motivation, that we're going to listen to these teachings so that we can become a Buddha, so we can benefit sentient beings. That's the long-term goal. Sangye charang soke chognam la, jangcho baru dagni kyab suchi. Dagi chunyen gi sonam ki, drola penche sangye drupa shok. Sangye charang soke chognam la, jangcho baru dagni kyab suchi. Dagi chunyen gi sonam ki, drola penche sangye drupa shok. Sangye charang soke chognam la, jangcho baru dagni kyab suchi. Dagi chunyen gipe sonam ki, drola penche sangye drupa sho. So as we said last night, this packaging of Buddhist teachings put together by Tsongkhapa in the 14th century on the basis of a text that Atisha in the 11th century wrote when he first came to Tibet from India. I mean, roughly speaking, kind of Buddhism had been there a couple of hundred years, since the 8th century, I suppose, 300 years when he came along. He was invited by the king or whatever, and he spent the last 15, 17 years of his life there, Atisha. So somehow I think he put this, Buddhism was flourishing, and Vajrayana was flourishing, which was, the most sophisticated level, the most advanced level, you could argue, of Buddha's teachings and practices really flourishing in India. And then, this Padmasambhava, great Guru Rinpoche, a great tantric practitioner, which tantric practitioner means a practitioner of junior school, high school, university as well. And so that's moved to Tibet, and then it was really flourishing. All of Buddhism was flourishing there. But I think Atisha felt that there was somehow maybe, a lack of clarity about the different levels of practices, and he felt that the most advanced teachings shouldn't be so evident, because there's different levels. One way you could argue these different stages of practice. The very first level, the junior school level, the lowest scope of teaching, which is abiding by the laws of karma, is all about good ethics. That's actually symbolized by Buddha as a monk. And that's the external. That's what you show to the world. That's the external. You show good behavior, your body and speech, good behavior. That's the first level of practice, and that's what you present to the world. Now the next level, the Bodhisattva wing, that's more advanced, and that's, in a sense, that's kind of hidden. That's because there the teachings are more outrageous, the motivation is more profound. So there, you're more an advanced practitioner, and that's really more hidden. Not because there you would do whatever necessary to benefit sentient beings. Because you have bodhicitta and you're more an advanced practitioner, that could even include, doing something that would look like negative for the sake of sentient beings. So that's more hidden. Then you go to the most advanced level, which is, you could all literally even more hidden. And that was behind Atisha's thing, this whole approach of you present to the world simple, good behavior. You're a nice person. That's what the world should see, good behavior. But the bodhisattva path and the tantric path are completely internal. That's, it's like secret in a sense, and it has got a lot of logic to it psychologically. So the very first level and the essence of the practice, as I've been saying, as we've been talking, is behavior. It's about behavior. So you take the first level of vows. There are sets of vows for these three stages. And the first level of vows are known as the vows of individual liberation, prati moksha, individual liberation. And they're the vows of good behavior. Don't kill, don't lie, don't steal. They're the same level of vows for monks and nuns. We've got more vows, but it's the same approach. And these vows are all about body and speech. The vows aren't about mind. The vows are about body and speech, what we present to the world. And this first level is controlling the body, controlling the speech, being disciplined, being ethical, don't harm sentient beings. That's the main concern of this level of vows. And from this point of view, this gets us at least out of having lower realm rebirth. At least gets us another decent human body. That's the first scope of practice, as we've been talking, And that includes also the next level, which is where you work on your mind. These are the same vows for that part, and that's junior school and high school. That's the wisdom wing. Then you've got the next level, bodhisattva vows, and they are more profound. They're more related to being of benefit to others. The first level is stopping harming others. This next level is how to benefit others, and the tantric vows are most advanced. As Lama Yeshe says, tantra is highly technical, another whole level of reality. So there's levels of practice, levels of vows, levels of behavior, levels of practice. So the essence, as I said, if you want to, the essence of junior school, the essence of the first scope is the laws of karma. And this is the stuff we need to understand if we want to begin to have some semblance of understanding of Buddha's teachings, Buddha's philosophy, Buddha's worldview. And like I said, Buddha came out of this extraordinary tradition of these amazing Indians that had been around for a couple of thousand years, this extraordinary sophisticated level of reality, this meditation, these amazing yogis, these great masters and these great philosophers. He then diverged in his own direction in relation to very specific points, in particular the nature of self. As the Dalai Lama said, it was these Indians more than 3,000 years ago who were the ones who began the investigation into the nature of self. And that means internal investigation, which is unique, utterly unique, Nothing remotely like our scientific physical world where we look into the brain. Nothing wrong with it, but this is extraordinary. And he came out of that whole tradition and then eventually diverged in his own direction. He went as far as he could and he felt there's still more left in the mind, still delusions to get rid of. They hadn't gone far enough. So he diverged in his own direction, in particular in relation to the nature of self. So he didn't chuck out what he'd learned. He absorbed all that. That was reality. But then he found certain points that he felt hadn't been dealt with. So he didn't throw out what he'd got. He continued, moved forward, So karma's been around for several thousand years. It's the worldview that's been existent in India for several thousand years, So we need, as a Buddhist, it's fundamental. And interestingly for many Buddhists, they wouldn't think about karma. You don't talk about it. There's different traditions in different countries, the way Buddhism's developed. I remember one Zen monk at Kopan one year, and I said, "What's the mind?" Because he doesn't. There's a different whole approach, doesn't talk about it. Different approaches and different traditions in different countries. So here we're discussing, as we know, they're discussing the way Buddhism has developed in Tibet, and here we're discussing also the way, in particular, in relation to Tsongkhapa, our Gelug lineage Lama from the 14th century, and the way we're teaching here is the approach of learning the thought, learning the philosophy, learning the views, on the basis of which you then meditate and experience those views internally yourself. This is one whole approach, And that's the approach we're taking here. But when we talk about Mahamudra, we're taking a different approach. We'll discuss that later. So like I said, the essence of the first scope of practice, it all culminates, all the different practices that Tsongkhapa gets us to think about, culminates in the approach, in the actual beginning of practice, which is to abide by the laws of karma. So again, let's look at that and go into a bit more detail about it. What does it mean, abide by the laws of karma? It means practice virtue. It means don't practice non-virtue. It means stop, the essence of it is stop harming sentient beings. A broader way of saying it is stop creating negative karma. So it's not just harming sentient beings that's negative karma. That's the heaviest level of negative karma. So it's that first level that Buddha talks about. So like we've been discussing, it's actually, if you listen to the instructions, there's a little list of 10 don'ts that Buddha lays out as his suggestion for a person who wants to become a better human being. He exhorts us to refrain from 10 things. A little list of 10 things of how to be a better person, Well, the first 7 are about the body and speech. The first 3 are the body. And they're just 3 heavy-duty actions that he would suggest we refrain from doing. To kill, to steal, or take the ungiven, as Tibetans put it, and to misuse our body sexually, sexual misconduct. That's interpreted in various ways, but the broader way would be to not rape and to not cheat on partners, take someone else's partner and cheat on yours. So control your body in those 3 ways. And each of those is an action that would, if you did them, would harm sentient beings. So the heaviest of negative karma is always when it harms others. Lots of actions only harm us. This is a crucial point, But at least here, he those 3 main ones. Then the next 4 is speech, which is clear. It's for humans, We humans, those 4 we mentioned. Don't say words that aren't true. Don't use harsh language, abuse people. Don't say bad things about people behind their backs. And don't just rabbit on about nothing. 4 things. The last 3 are just, the way I put it is, the kind of the grosser levels of these 3 toxic emotions. Ignorance, attachment, and anger. So the grossest, the heavy-duty level of attachment, we can see it, what you call really intense craving. When you can't stop, thinking about whatever that object might, especially the senses. Sexual attachment to food, whatever, the objects that we know in the outside world. So the really intense extra level of craving. A strong attachment. That's really, really intense. To at least attempt to refrain from that. The second one is a refrain from the really heavy duty levels of anger. They call it ill will, or kind of where you get angry, but then when you can't give it up and you want you want the person to be harmed, you want them to suffer. That's the really heavy duty level of anger. And we can see we might get angry, but then you let go of it. This is the one that's absolute torture, like a nightmare. And that's the one that does the most harm on this planet. When you can't let go and you want them to be harmed, you want them to suffer. That's terrible. Ill will, they call it. It sounds kind of cute. Malice. The third one is a particular manifestation of ignorance, the root delusion. A particular manifestation here is really what they call very narrow-minded, a really fundamentalist person, very narrow-minded, very stubborn mind, very, very, very small-minded, ignorant kind of person, who really, like, fundamentalist is a good word, fundamentalist, I'm right and you're wrong, and can't see past their own nose. And that can manifest in philosophies and religions, we can see that. But it's also just manifest in your own way of life. You're right and everyone else is wrong. That's very evident on the planet. So at least refrain from those heavy-duty levels of one manifestation of the root delusion, ignorance. 10 little instructions, 10 little suggestions from the Buddha. So again, let's repeat and look at this, this point that's crucial to understand. Buddha is not a creator. Our view of morality is so ingrained, so instinctive, and our view of morality matches the creator view. We have this view that somehow morality is something that someone above us, God, the mother, the father, the police, the judge, the country, some vague they out there that's squashing on top of us and telling us not to do it, and that has the power, and that being or person or country or something has the power to punish us if we do it. That's our view of morality. Don't blame your Catholic mother or your Jewish mother. That's the dualistic view of morality as a result of this ego grasping that we have invented. We've invented that view. That's the view of the dualistic view of morality, that morality is what someone else says you should or shouldn't do. That's why we get guilty. That's why we think if no one sees us do something naughty, oh, I got away with it. That's how we think. Don't blame other people for that view. That's the view we all have. That's the view of ego grasping. And that's not the Buddha's view. He's not a creator. He says we don't need creating. He says it's a misconception. It's a view we have made up. He's not being rude. So for him, the view of morality is a natural law. So natural law we call that science. Botany is a natural law. We know that if you're a materialist, there's no concept of someone creating botany. Botany is simply the way things are given the conditions of this planet. It's just the way things are. That's the Buddha's view. That's what he means. That's the way things are. Thusness. No one made it that. The conditions of this planet determine what botany is, and what a clever person, some clever people have come along, have observed the universe, have observed the way the universe works, and have articulated the laws that are already there. They're already existent. Botanists don't create botany. There's a really crucial point here. They don't make up botany. They observe it and articulate it. That's what natural law means. That's the Buddha's view. There's no other concept. There's no Buddha's rules. There are in a certain conventional level. They talk about natural negativities. But at the same time, they say, killing and harming sentient beings, which is natural law for the Buddha. There are certain things like over the time, Buddha developed these different rules when you're living together as monks and nuns and so forth. That's another discussion. They're Buddhist rules. That's different. You can create those laws as a way of existing between each other, like in countries and places. You don't do this, you don't go more than 70 miles an hour, that kind of thing. But the fundamentals of the way the universe exists, that's Buddha's concern, that's his interest. And so what he comes up with, his views about karma, his views about emptiness, his views about the mind, they're not made by him, which is the typical view, as I was a Catholic, God created those things. There's no view like that in Buddhism. It's a very major point that we don't really think through, Buddha is not a creator. He says we don't need creating. And that's where karma comes out of, that concept, which is really quite extraordinary. So botany is a natural law. Clever people have articulated it, and if you want to, if you want to get a good garden, you need to learn those laws. It's pretty clear. But they've always existed there. They've always existed there. It's the same with numbers. Wasn't it some clever Arab fellow who decided, he came up with 0 to 9, as opposed to those silly Italians with their X's and their V's? I heard, wasn't it some Arab who invented numbers? He didn't make up counting. Before he existed, if you had 2 oranges on a table, there were always 2 oranges there. You didn't know it was called 2, but there's always 2 oranges. That's natural law. But this clever person came up with a way of articulating those laws. And look at the benefit of numbers, this genius universe we live in now. Natural law is the way things are. That's the Buddha's view. And that's why it's shocking to us. That's why, Bill's question, other people's question about religion, this stuff, you read, medieval Tibetan stuff, it's exactly the same as Catholics. There's no difference in terms of devotion and prayers and all the things, religious and rituals. It's exactly the same. You can be forgiven for thinking it's exactly the same. But there's this fundamental difference. Buddha's not a creator. He didn't make the universe. We don't have to. Your job isn't to obey him. And that means he doesn't have the power to punish and reward. So we've got to think it through. And the implication, but the point is, the implication of it is that we're the boss. That's the point. We create our own happiness and we create our own suffering. We do it to ourselves. That's the heavy duty point the Buddha's making, which is quite subtle. And it takes a while to hear that, because we have the other view automatically. I'm this innocent victim who didn't ask to get born. It's not my fault. And then someone else punishes and rewards me out there. That's the view of ego grasping, which brings the view of attachment and aversion. That's the philosophy of those 3 toxic emotions. And we have to analyse this and look into it. And this is what takes time. This accountability. This kind of when you take the view of karma properly, you become grown up. You are in charge. And that's powerful. That really takes time to hear. That's the real grown-up one. I am responsible. I have created every atom of my own suffering. I have created every atom of my own happiness up to now. And for me, it's my job in the future to get on with it, to create what I want to become what I want to become. It's up to me. So Buddha's role in that is huge. He's done the job. We can't do without him. This is uncharted territory. Even making a cake. Can you imagine if all recipes had been lost? And all you have left is photos of cakes. You'd spend millions of dollars in research trying to analyse, isn't it? Just a photo. How could you do it? You couldn't. So to have a cook, a person who still is a living person who holds the knowledge of how to make a cake, Rigsin it's called, a knowledge holder. That's a miracle. That's experiential knowledge. And that's the point in Buddhism. That's why when the Tibetans came into exile, His Holiness and all the great abbots and the great lamas, their main concern was to build the monasteries so they can carry on the oral lineage, the oral knowledge, the knowledge in the minds of the holy beings, and passing it on through words to the next generation. Otherwise, Buddhism would become just myth. Like cake making would just become myth. No one knows it any longer. So this is a hugely important point. So we need the Buddha. We need the teacher. That's why we need a teacher. Of course you need a teacher. Good God. This is uncharted territory. This is unheard of. I mean, enlightenment, if to hear what a Buddha is insane. There's nothing remotely like it. And of course we just think it's religion. Oh yeah, that's, become a Buddha, pervade the universe, know everything, wow, religion. We don't treat it with seriousness, But this is the Buddha's experience, the Buddha's view, his view about what he achieved. And he says, over to you guys, here's my methodology, follow what I did, and you'll get there. So that's why the oral lineage is so important. The actual real experiential knowledge holders. Once that's gone, Buddhism's dead. It becomes a bunch of myths, And it's dying fast. It's the same with botany, same with math. If all that got lost, you have to do all that hard work again, reinvent the wheel, Living knowledge is incredible. That's what we need. As Lama Yeshe said, Buddha's dead. So the Four Noble Truths will only become real for us when we experience it through a person who knows it. The Buddha for us, which is the present person, the present teacher. If we'd been living at the time of the Buddha, we would have had that human being who was the teacher. That's what he was called, the guru, the teacher. He was the teacher. He was the human manifestation of Buddha, a Buddha. There's no secret one Buddha out there, like the way the concept of God that we're all part of. Not like that. As many Buddhas as there are, they're in a sense the same Buddha. So the Buddha was the human manifestation of Buddha. So we would rely upon his advice. It's just the same now. That's why we need a person now in human form whom we can understand, who can speak to us and look like us and sound like us, so we can get the instructions so we can experience the Four Noble Truths as well. You've got to have that human manifestation. Otherwise it's just knowledge in books, you know. So the law of karma. The Hindus came up with it. These genius meditators observed it with their subtle mind, articulated it. So in the Buddhist view of it now, you know, over the centuries, since the Buddha, there's different ways of seeing it. So essentially the law of karma, this fundamental principle that every millisecond of whatever any mind does, says or thinks, necessarily is part of this process of what's called creating actions, doing actions. And the meaning of the word karma is action, and the meaning of the word karma, the meaning of it is mental action, and that's the word intention. There's many states, as we mentioned, you know, there's various states of mind, this third category called, I call the mechanics, not the virtues, not the non-virtues, but this concentration, all these ones, you know. There's one that's called intention, that's there all the time. So we don't think we have intentions. We think most of the time we're just on autopilot, because we've programmed our mind for countless lives with intentions. That virtually they're instinctive now. But every millisecond there's an intention, and that leads us to do or say whatever we do and say. But we're completely ignorant of it. We have no idea because we're just programmed. We get born with instincts. Instinct is just the habit of having done or said something that often that now you do it automatically. You've programmed yourself to perfection. But so intention is if you want a boss inside here, there's no self. It's the boss. The boss is intention, and it's your mind. We don't think it is. We don't feel like we're in control, but intention. As Lama Tsongkhapa says, there's a saying in Tibetan: everything exists on the tip of the wish. The thought, I will, volition. It's obvious. I mean, if you see me stand up, and you will at some point, and I walk out that door, you can guarantee there was in my mind an intention, a thought, I will walk out the door. If that is not there, believe me, I will not walk out that door. That's absolutely logical, but we don't think it, you know, we don't analyze it. Intention. So what we're trying to do is, what intention is the beginning of the creating of karma. The beginning of this process of cause and effect. It starts with intention. And then it flows from there. So that's why we have to learn to be in control of it. We're not in control of it now. That's why we have to learn this law, so we can be in control of it, so we can start to control our future, determine the person we want to become. Just in the same way with botany. You've got to decide the kind of garden you want in 10, 20, 30 years. So you've got to start with the work now. You learn the laws of botany. Then you'll get the garden, because the laws of botany are logical. All the laws are logical. Numbers are logical. Engineering is logical. Architecture is logical. Building is logical. Cake making is logical. They're based on laws. That's the Buddha's view about morality. It's a bunch of laws that he didn't make up. They're natural laws to be observed. So Buddha is like a scientist who's observed the universe and articulated those laws. Clearly, these can't be observed with the gross conceptual mind. That's the big point we have to realize. Buddha's asserting a subtle level of mind, and only with that subtle level of mind can you observe that level of reality. You have to deduce that. Otherwise it's just true. It's just religion and we just make it up. How can you prove it, we say. Of course you can prove it. Buddha's proved it. All the information is there. It's up for us to do it. So the principles of karma, so Buddha's expertise as far as this natural law is concerned is related to happiness and suffering. Not cakes and not gardens. Suffering and happiness. He's concerned about the mind, sentient beings. So we look into the world, we look into our own experiences, we can prove this is true. It's natural law. Look into your life. And you can see from the time you can remember up to now, we spend our lives attempting to get what we call happiness and trying to avoid what we call suffering. There's a third kind of in the model of the mind that we learn in this Tibetan Buddhist monastic university system, which comes from India, which comes from the Hindus, comes from the great yogis' experience, direct internal experience. They've mapped the mind internally. It's absolutely ingenious. There are three categories, like we've been talking, of states of mind. There's no fourth category. And they've got the neurotic, deluded ones, like we've been saying, the virtuous, positive, useful ones. And the third category, these mechanics, I call them those. So that in there's many, and there's one of those, it's called feeling, but not the way we think of it. We think like anger is a big emotion, love is a big emotion. Not meaning like that, not that meaning at all. The one called feeling, for the Buddha's observation, there's only 3 kinds of feeling we could ever have. A happy feeling, an unhappy feeling, and a neutral feeling. There's no 4th category. And look at your life, you can prove it. So pleasant feeling, happy feeling, joyful feeling, blissful feeling, ecstatic feeling, rapturous feeling, whatever word you like, levels of happy feelings. Pleasant feeling. There's a whole spectrum, all the way from mildly pleasant to ecstatic. That's called pleasant feeling. That's another word for happiness. Second, you have unpleasant feelings, all the way from the mildest unpleasant to the most intense torture you can even imagine. And then you've got neutral. Well, let's forget neutrals, okay? This is completely boring. They're valid, but let's forget those. Who cares about neutral? Forget those. So we've got happy feelings and we have unhappy feelings. Now, when we think about these words, it's very fascinating. When we think about happiness, because we're so addicted to the outside world, because we're so believing that happiness that I might experience is caused by the outside world, then when we think about happiness, we think of the event, the person, the thing, the food, whatever it might be. We so externalize it. But we're talking technically here an internal experience. Happiness is a mental experience, and indeed experience also through the body, but through the consciousness, the sensory consciousness. We're not discussing the object at all. It's the mind we're talking about. So pleasure or pain, unpleasant or pleasant, happiness or suffering. This is logic. This is not made up by the Buddha. This is logic. This is evident. This is observable. Look at your life. So we all know, however we interpret suffering, we know it's a word for the stuff that we don't like. And however you interpret happiness, we know it refers to the stuff we do want. And if you look at it, we spend our lives, all sentient beings the same as all the monks, all the monkeys, all the ants. Our lives are spent trying to get happiness and trying to avoid suffering. So, okay, what methods do we use? Well, it's obvious. In this body that for the Buddha is created karmically over many lifetimes by our attachment and the other delusions. It is the body of the senses. Look at it. 5 holes that demand feeding. And what's the world? The world is made up of the objects that we have to feed into our 5 senses. So basically attachment is like we're a junkie. Attachment is a junkie. We've got a body created by being a junkie over many lifetimes, and we live in a universe that's made of heroin, basically, and we have to ingest it to survive. That's samsara, baby. That's the deeper level of suffering of samsara. We're locked into it. No choice. We have to ingest the heroin every second of the day just to get a few happy feelings. That's the desperateness of samsara for the Buddha. So, Buddha's whole approach to the universe, his understanding of it in terms of karma, is how to get happiness and how to stop suffering. That's his goal. His goal isn't to give up happiness. When we misunderstand attachment, which is the main cause of our suffering, we're going to go into more detail here. As Lama Tsongkhapa says, we go, oh, you mean I've got to give up my happiness? I've got to give up my heart? No, on the absolute opposite. For the Buddha, it's the absolute opposite. What he is saying is, he's found from his own experience the way to get happy, to have pleasant feelings in the mind. And okay, to have pleasant feelings. And the main point of it is the mind. His thing is the mind. The mind is the creator of the entire universe. The mind is the creator of all realms, all hell realms, all bliss, all joy, all suffering. No, don't need a creator. We do it ourselves. We create our own suffering just fine, thank you, and we create our own happiness just fine. So karma is his way of articulating these natural laws of how to stop suffering and how to get happiness. That's the whole point of Buddhism, all the way to Buddhahood. All the way to Buddhahood. That's what Buddha means, that word, remember? Sangye in Tibetan, Buddha. Sang implies the eradication from our mind of suffering and its causes, which is all the delusions. And the gye is the development to perfection of all the goodness within us, which is at the core of our being. This is what Buddha's discovered. So the law of karma is his way of articulating why there is happiness and why there is suffering. In other words, the botanist articulates why there are flowers, why there are herbs, and why there are, and therefore how to get them, and to know what to do with what's in your garden. That's the Buddha's one. So our life is our garden. And we are the ones who have to learn to know how. We all want happiness. That is a given. So we just have to. Then we've got to see what he means by happiness. What does he mean by happiness? And we all don't want suffering. Let's look at his view about these things. So where that's articulated, one particular packaging of teachings, another package, and you mainly learn this in high school, in the second scope, is the Four Noble Truths. So actually the truths aren't noble. It's the truths for the noble ones. Noble ones is one of those terms in Sanskrit, I don't know which one it is, for those who've realised this stuff. The four facts for the noble ones. So what are they? It's the whole framework is suffering. The first one is there is suffering. And he articulates different ways. But one way is articulating 3 levels of suffering. The first one is called the suffering of suffering. It's in-your-face suffering. And that's the one everybody agrees with. All the monkeys and ants and humans. That's the level, given this samsara we live in, given these bodies we have, these bodies of attachment, these bodies of desire created by attachment, this level of suffering is what everybody agrees. And it's when the bad things happen. All the way from the mildest unpleasant feeling to the most intense unpleasant feeling. That's what we mean by the suffering of pain. It's when the bad things happen. Now that's all we think of as suffering. And we spend our lives trying to avoid that. The second kind of suffering is really depressing. Because he calls it the suffering of change, which sounds pretty innocuous. But what he's referring to is what we refer to as happiness, as the pleasant feelings. That's really depressing. Like, what chance have we got, But the third one is even more subtle, and I implied it already by saying the junkie business. That's the implication of the third one. It's called all-pervasive suffering. So the framework here, to understand this framework, and to understand this first level, those 3 kinds of suffering, but to really get our head around it, we need to understand the second of these 4 facts, these 4 truths, which is there are causes of suffering. And we all know, if you have got a problem, you first articulate the problem. You've got to identify the problem accurately, but you will never get rid of that problem until you identify the causes. That when you've got the problem clear and you've identified the causes, that implies the solution. And that's Buddha's approach here. So the first of these 4 is that there is suffering. The second, there are causes. The third, guess what? You can be free of suffering. I mean, this is astonishing. And fourth, how to do it, the methods. So let's look at these 3 kinds. So the way to really understand the 3 kinds of suffering is in reference to the causes, which is the second one. And the key one there, so there's 2 causes. As far as Buddha is concerned, there are 2 causes of suffering. So let's just look at the first cause, the first kind of suffering first. In the first noble truth, the first kind of suffering, the suffering of pain, the suffering of suffering, when the bad things happen. If we can analyze that one and understand that one, we'll understand the rest. It gives us the answer, explains to us. So the suffering of suffering is when the bad things happen. Let's go to the cause, second one. There are 2, as far as Buddha is concerned, there are 2 main causes of suffering. And we're talking here this first kind, the suffering of suffering. There are thousands of causes. Now, we look in the world, we understand this. We call it science. We mightn't say it's all the law of cause and effect, but botany is the law of cause and effect. Everything we know that's called science is based upon the logic of laws. There are causes and there are results. So once you get that down, you'll always get a garden. You'll always get a building. You'll always get a cake. Once you learn those laws, cause and effect. Well, like I said here, Buddha's expertise is happiness and suffering. You know how to get rid of the suffering and get happiness. So there are many, many causes. We all know that. There are many causes to bring together anything. Just a tissue, a cup. You're going to have hundreds of things that have to come together to produce that. A flower. There's so many things. And the same with a moment of happiness or a moment of suffering. And here we're discussing suffering. The first kind of suffering, when the bad things happen. So simple example, Chuck punches me in the nose. Simple example. We would call that suffering. when the bad things happen. So the Buddha's saying there are, indeed, you can see there are many things that had to come together. How Chuck was feeling today, many things had happened because his mother said this to him and the weather was bad because of that, and that was a trigger for him to feel this. Then I come along at the wrong time, and then boom, 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 his fist goes out and I get the punch. Many, many things had to come together to produce that moment in my mind. We're discussing me here, my moment of suffering. And I could probably articulate 100 things that all came together. But Buddha says we can narrow it down to two, and these two main causes are the ones such that when we can work on those, we can stop the future suffering. That's the point. It's his explanation for why this is happening now, which implies if I take these laws and practice them, it will guarantee that I won't get that suffering again. It's like a learning. So botany explains to you why that weed is there. And the implication is you apply those rules and you won't get any more weeds, baby. That's the point of it. Same here. So there are two main causes of my moment of suffering. We're discussing my suffering here. So as far as we're concerned, there's one cause. It's called Chuck. No. For Buddha, he is merely a catalyst. He's merely a catalyst. He's merely a secondary cause. This is very shocking for us. Our whole world is based on the view that he's the main cause. Not for the Buddha. He says he's merely a catalyst. The main cause, there are two main causes. One is called karma and one is called delusions. So karma is this law we're discussing here. This law of karma. And so what it means is my past action. Given that my mind is a continuity of mental moments, a chain of mental moments that goes back and back and back and back and back, we have to take that as a given. The law of karma is utter nonsense without the view of consciousness being a beginningless continuity of mental moments going back previous lives and going forward to future lives. Karma does not work as a concept just to explain life right now in terms of one rebirth. It's a nonsense. It's an utter nonsense. It doesn't work. We can get a vague idea of cause and effect in this life, but it's not the really big view that really explains logically all the different experiences. We have to take this view as a given, take this view as a hypothesis, that this consciousness of Robina's is this non-physical continuity of mental moments that tracks back and back and back and back and back before this life and will indeed continue future. That's the big picture in Buddhism. So that's our hypothesis here. So the first of these main causes of my suffering, this moment of my suffering, is an action that I must have done, speaking simplistically, to that person. Karma's pretty personal. In a past life, harmed him, that sowed a seed in my mind, because I didn't pull the seed out, and that seed has now ripened as my moment of suffering. So the main cause of that is the past action, and what impelled me to do that action is a delusion. So karma and delusion. The action motivated by a negative state of mind. Equally, you can extrapolate a moment of happiness. It's exactly the same logic. You know, why are you happy, Robina? Oh, Chuck is so kind to me. As far as we're concerned, there's one cause of my happiness, and that's called Chuck. No, he's merely a catalyst for my happiness. The cause of my happiness is a past action impelled by a virtuous state of mind, such that I hadn't pulled the seed out, and I now get the fruit of my past actions, and Chuck is kind to me. Simply like that, the essence of it. So it's totally about me. I am the cause of my own happiness and I am the cause of my suffering. It doesn't mean Chuck does not play a role. It doesn't mean that he's not a monster. It doesn't mean he didn't harm me. That's not what's being stated. Buddha's emphasis is on the person, individually, me, trying to work out my garden, my experience, what caused me to get that experience. This is really intense, but it's absolutely the opposite of our world. The absolute opposite of all our science, all our psychology. And our instinctive view. I mean, who created our science and who created our psychology? People like you and me, with the view that we are all innocent victims. So, of course, we articulate science that fits our minds. I mean, our science is ingenious. I'm not criticising, but look at the view I'm talking. It's all out there. We're innocent victims, made by someone else, to whom unfair things happen. Not for the Buddha. So this is already intense. So two main causes of my suffering. And indeed of my happiness. It gives me some, courage to think of both. My past action, based upon a particular state of mind, that sowed seeds in my mind, and such that I didn't pull them out, a seed will grow and multiply and eventually manifest as many fruits. That's it. So there are four types of fruits, 4 ways past actions can ripen in the future. So we think of our life now as the future of the past, then we can look into our life and divide it into these 4 categories. The first way our past actions have ripened is in terms of our rebirth, and in our case, a human rebirth. Now for the Buddha, in the spectrum of types of possibilities of rebirths, we've won the lottery. We've got animal rebirths, and he's asserting many other types of rebirth that we can't see, but he says would do exist, that are infinitely more suffering, that are the fruit of negative actions. So this first one, the first type of, I think I use the analogy of 4 bank vaults. It's very kind of casual, but it's a good analogy. The first bank vault, at the time of our past death, not more than a few weeks before we found our way very directly to our present mummy's fallopian tube, where it joined, our consciousness joined the egg and sperm of mummy and daddy. A few weeks before that, we were in another body, and we must have died relatively peacefully. We could have been a kangaroo or a dog or an ant. Doesn't follow we were human. But we've got this bank vault we've got millions of karmic seeds in this bank vault. What 2 bank vaults, really, a negative one and a positive one. Lots of virtuous seeds from virtuous actions, and lots of suffering of negative seeds from negative actions. So in our case, like a miracle, but not really a miracle, it's logical, a virtuous seed was triggered that already programmed us, even before we stopped breathing, to find our way to our present mummy's human womb. Very specific. Second way that karma ripens, and it was the fruit of a virtuous action. The main cause of this rebirth, getting a human body, just getting a human body, whether Hitler or Mother Teresa, the main cause is a strong habit of non-killing, non-harming in general, in particular non-killing. So the main cause for us, and as Lama Tsongkhapa says, to get this entire life that we've got, with the conditions that we've got, must have been that virtue, that non-killing must have been practiced in the context of a spiritual path. Even more than that, kept practiced in the context of keeping vows of morality, vows of non-killing, non-harming, etc. So the main cause of our getting this human body is our own past tendency, our own past habit of non-killing, practiced in the context of keeping a vow not to kill. We'll go into this. Second, in this life, have a look at us. You got your Mother Teresa and you got your Hitlers. They both got a human body. Both got 2 legs and arms and a brain. But look at the difference. The difference is the second way that karma ripens, their personality traits, their tendencies, their characteristics, their habits. You can see by their actions the different kind of minds they had. That's the second way our karma ripens. A bunch of habits, basically. And this is very clear for the Buddha. These are already triggered. Our tendency to be good, loving, kind, angry, jealous, neurotic, good at football, good at music, you name it. These were triggered before we even stopped breathing in the past life. These have got 0 to do with mummy and daddy. It doesn't mean they haven't got them as well, and it doesn't mean that they didn't nourish those seeds in you, but they're your seeds, baby, from you having done them before. This is fundamental in Buddhism. This is what we really do accept, as His Holiness says, we create ourselves, These are triggered before we even meet our mother and father. Our tendencies. The first one is called the fully ripened result, a type of, in our case, a human rebirth. The second track of karma, this is in all your course notes there, is called, you can call it intentions or actions or tendencies similar to the cause, the habit of having done them before. It's hardly rocket science, That's why, if you see, we can see little children. Some want to abuse animals and some cry when animals suffer. And we just go, oh, well, no one knows why. It's kind of like accidental. No, it's very logical. You continue to practice whatever your habit is. If you just posit the possibility of consciousness that came from before, this fits perfectly, The third way our karma ripens is called experiences similar to the cause. And if you just look at us in our lives, from the time we're born, the time we're conceived actually, up to now, our life, we are very social beings. We live in context with others. We live in relation to other sentient beings. And if you think about it very simply, since you're conceived up to now, you can divide the entire world of beings into 2 categories. Those who've harmed you and those who've helped you. The third category is called strangers. We don't care about them. That's 99.9%. We don't care about them because they've neither harmed nor helped us. But we've got our friends and our enemies, and we can see they all change roles all the time. The people who've been mean to you and the people who are kind to you. That's it. Think about your life. That's it. The rats who shit in your kitchen, your beloved boyfriend, your kind mother, your ugly mother, your lovely husband, your mean husband, you name it. There are sentient beings who are nice to us or mean to us. There's no other category. And they're the ones we care about, they're the ones we're concerned about. Think about all day and night, our enemies and our friends. That's it. So this third way our karma ripens is called experiences similar to the cause. The way, in other words, the way we're seen and treated by others. That is the result of our past actions. This is the most shocking one. This is the most shocking one. Because the view of the universe, the view of the materialist philosophical view, is that absolutely much of what happens to us we do not deserve. Because we're innocent victims. And that's what most of our suffering is. Because we don't know why is this happening to me, we'll say. And then we look at the world and see the terrible suffering, and it all looks so unjust. All the innocent victims of the planet. That's why we all go crazy. We have zero answer for why bad things happen to people. We have zero answer why good things happen either. We don't care about them. We just want more, please. If you're a Christian, you have faith in God. If you're a materialist, we haven't found the answers yet. That's a fact. If you're a Buddhist, you created them, baby. You're the boss. The fourth way our karma ripens is even more abstract, but we can try and describe this. It's called environmental karma. It's the way the very physical world impacts upon us. I don't just mean the moon and the stars. I mean the house you live in, the food you eat, the way the water impacts upon you, the way the things impact upon you. So we know some people would die if they eat a peanut. That's environmental karma of past killing. Another person will eat rubbish and stay healthy till they're 94. That's the environmental karma of non-killing. So every single way we experience the entire physical universe, the way every sentient being treats us, the way all our own tendencies and even our own humanity. What else is there in your life? There's nothing. That's it. And causes of this, your past actions. You are the boss, quite literally. This really takes time to get. Only because, these words aren't that complicated, only because we have views deep in our bones that are the opposite of this. That's why it's so hard for us to hear karma. We resist it mightily. Because we hear it in the framework of blame and punishment. Because that's our view of morality, the dualistic view that we have made up. So we think, oh, I'm a bad person. You mean I deserve suffering? We see an innocent child, you mean she deserves suffering. We can't bear that. To think of animals being suffered to, that's unbearable to us. So that's only, these views, the view of karma, what I'm just saying in this room is not intellectually complicated. But we resist it so totally only because we have deep in our bones another set of views. Either they're Christian views or materialist or our own views. Maybe we've made up our own views about reality. They're the ones that we have deep in our bones that we think of as true. And when we hear karma, it smashes up against those views. That's why it's hard to hear. That's why we can't stand the view of karma. But we put it in the framework of punishment and reward. That's the view we have already. It's not the view here at all. That's not what Buddha's saying at all. There's no punisher and there's no rewarder. It's a natural law. We get it when it comes to food. It comes to physical things. We understand. It's a natural law that if you practice piano really well, you will create a really good pianist. We understand that logically. That's the view of karma. That's karma. What you do produces what you become, baby. But when it comes to morality, we have a whole different weird set of rules that make us so neurotic, you know. We know that what you put in a garden brings a fruit. You better learn the laws. You know that the way you make a cake produces the cake. We know that every thought you have in relation to the cake counts. But when it comes to morality, we're just completely wacky, you know. It's very interesting. It's very fascinating. We know that if you smoke cigarettes, you could get cancer. You don't think it's punishment. You don't think your doctor's punishing you. You don't think that. You know that smoking caused it. It's a natural law. Well, that's all Buddha's saying. Morality is a natural law. It takes a while to hear this. It's very fascinating. So, okay, if then, being specific here, the next level of natural law, that everything you think and do and say produces fruits, then every negative action will produce a suffering result of these four kinds. A type of rebirth, let's say being born as an animal or a hungry ghost or something. The second way will be the tendency to keep doing it. The third way will be an experience of it happening to you. And the fourth way will be an environmental result. Every action we do, every thought we have, every word we say is any one of these and will bring any one of those four results. It's a natural law. So we better learn the law, hadn't we? That's the point. and apply it. So, if a negative action will produce suffering, and we're just talking the first level of suffering here, and I know I don't want suffering, and if you can't think about being reborn as some other kind of being, if that's too abstract for you, well, you certainly know you don't like being punched in the nose, killed, lied to, stolen from. You don't want to have negative tendencies. You don't want to be miserable all the time. You don't want to be angry all the time or violent. You don't want bad things to happen. You don't want peanuts to kill you. You can say you don't want that. Even if you can speculate having another type of rebirth as a human even, then you know you don't want those suffering. Like you know you don't want your garden to be full of weeds in 20 years, then you better learn the law of botany to stop the weeds, hadn't you? That's the approach here. So then what are the causes of those experiences? Because I know I don't want them. So then you have to learn to know the actions you have to avoid doing. There's no discussion here about growing the flowers yet. This first level is all about avoiding getting the suffering. So we have to then understand what are the causes of a future suffering result. Well, let's say lying. Let's say being lied to. What's the cause of being lied to? You're having lied in the past. What's the cause of not being believed, even if you're speaking the truth? You're having lied in the past. That's called experience similar to the cause. What's the cause of waking up in this life with a tendency to kill? Having killed in the past. That's the second kind of karma, which is the intention or the action or the tendency similar to the cause. What's the cause of, whatever you eat, it nourishes you, non-killing. Everything you experience in the environment, in relation to sentient beings, and in your own mind, all of them, the main cause of those, your past actions. That's it. That's the Buddha's law. That's what he's observed. So we know at this ordinary level, we don't want suffering results. We don't want the bad things to happen. And we do know we want the good things to happen. Nice things, people liking us, people being kind to us, food that's delicious, money in the bank, not being stolen from, healthy body. We're talking ordinary level here. We're talking ordinary level of ordinary lifetimes. Samsara. We know we want. That's what we understand as happiness. But the Buddha's view of the causes of it are what we're discussing here. The Buddha's view of the causes of this suffering that we know we don't want are here. That we are the main cause. We are the boss. We created them. And it's up to us to create them in the future if we want them. So that means we have to understand, what does a negative action mean? What does negative mean? What does positive mean? We all know these words, but what is his definition? So what is a negative action? One that would, let's say, an action called killing, that could ripen as a suffering rebirth, as a tendency to kill, as an experience of getting killed or dying young, and as a result, as an environmental result of the environment harming you. How do you define that negative action? What would be involved in your doing an action that will become a negative action of killing that could bring any of those four results? So we have to analyse. Well, the main result is the one that's called the fully ripened result, which is a type of rebirth. And any action we do that will become one of those, it will drop a seed into our main bank vault, such that will be determining our next rebirth or one of our future rebirths. Then there are four things in place, roughly speaking. It's more nuanced than this, but this is a simple way of putting it. Four things in place when we do that action that will determine that that's called a negative action, which will determine that it goes into your negative main fully ripened result bank vault and will produce many future suffering rebirths, because seeds multiply. So what's involved? Well, it's always a simple example I use, like that mouse in your kitchen, or your boyfriend, one or the other. The first is the object. There has to be an object of your action, which is obviously a living being. So let's just say the mouse, keep it simple. An object, the object. The second, and this is the crucial one, this is your mind involved in it. So there's several things here, but the two main ones, this is really, when we understand this, we understand the law of karma. So there's two parts here, 2A and 2B. 2A is the word intention, not the way we tend to use it as meaning motivation. Oh, she had a good intention. But this bare bones, I will. Bare bones, fundamental, I will. Intention, I will kill the mouse. The crucial piece, 2B, is we can call it your motivation. Or speaking very simply, well, what are you killing a mouse for, Robina? What's your reason, we'd say? Your motivation. And that probably these two come so totally together that I don't think we even separate them. So in my mind, I have an aversion to mice, let's say, and that's pretty common in our culture, isn't it? Unless it's your pet mouse. You don't want a mouse in your kitchen, you know? So instant aversion arises. Instant aversion. You can almost say, I think the aversion arises first, and then on the basis of the aversion, you're going to kill the mouse. I will kill the mouse. So intention, I will kill the mouse. Motivation, aversion. And pretty much we can say there's two main motivations for most of what we do to harm sentient beings on this planet. It's either attachment or aversion. Keep it simple. 2 of the 3 poisons. Keep it simple. Here it's aversion. Anger. Clearly, it's not as violent as if you want to kill your boyfriend who's been abusing you for 30 years. You know, that's really built up anger. Here's just disgust. How disgusting. How dare a mouse be in my kitchen? Aversion. It's called aversion. Keep it simple. We give it holy names like, oh, it's not good for health and that kind of thing. It's just called you don't like mice, you know. I mean, your special little pet cat and your pet poodle are just as disgusting when it comes to their shit as a mouse. Because you're attached to them, you think it's kind of special. You don't even mind their shit. Oh, my little poodle, look at its shit. It's because you're attached to your poodle, you know, so you're attached to their shit as well. So don't think mice are more disgusting than poodles. They're not. Well, mice aren't even more disgusting than boyfriends. The same yuck in our mouth, the same yuck in our sex organs, but we don't mind because we're attached to them. Excuse me, being blunt. It's true, isn't it? I mean, am I not speaking the truth? That's right. So, 3, you do the action. 4, result, dead mouse. Keep it simple. These are the 4 main conditions that would, 4 main things in place that would then determine the action you do is called a negative action, which means it's going to drop a seed into your main bank vault that will multiply and multiply and ripen as many future suffering lower realm rebirths. It'll also have the result of the tendency to keep doing it, having it done to you, and the environmental result. Even in a life where, let's say, in our case as humans, we can deduce that it wasn't a negative karma of killing that was triggered that gave us our human mummy. It was one of our positive actions of non-killing in exactly the same framework. That means it must have come from an action we did of exactly the same, but of non-killing. There's the mouse. 1. 2, intention. Oh, I must not kill the mouse. Motivation, compassion. 3, you do the action. 4, happy mouse. That's the 4 points of a virtuous action of non-killing. So one of those, variations of those, was the reason why we got a human body. If our mind went to a dog womb, it would have been because of killing. Non-killing gets you the human body, at the very least. And then, now, in this life, we can see, this is the tragedy in this life, we've also got the residual results of, let's say, killing. In this life, we have tendency to kill. Look at most of the human planet. Most humans kill something. Even most religions, with respect, say it's okay to kill. Christians, I was learned as a Catholic that God made all the other creatures for the benefit of humans. So most humans kill something. We have the second one, the tendency to kill. We have the tendency to kill, you know. This is the tragedy. The third one we have, which is the experience of being killed or dying young. Look at the planet, look at the humans, forget the animals. So we get a good human life because of non-killing, but there are 4 tracks of karma, remember? So we have the residual result left over from our past killing and of being in the lower realms. And the tragedy is because we didn't purify, we've got the residual results left over even in a good human life. So we just waste our human life by continuing to kill and go right back to the lower realms again. This is the tragedy. Or we get killed or die young. Look at the world. I'm sure if we did our research, we would find that more humans who kind of get a human womb, go into the human womb at conception, I'm sure we did our research, you'd find that more of those humans in the mother's womb die before they're born, miscarriage and abortion, than those who even get born and then die young. You think about it. I wouldn't be surprised. We don't do that kind of research, you know. That's because of past killing. That's the experience similar to the cause of having killed in the past such that you die young, even in the womb. Or when you're 1 or 2 or 4 or 7 or 20. Die young or get killed. Look at the human world. That's the fruit of past killing. That's the residual result of called the experience similar to the cause, because we haven't purified all the killing. The second one, the third one, of course, is the environmental. The environment, the very physical world itself, which we hope will nourish us, harms us. The food's polluted, the water's polluted, you've got allergies. I mean, look at us these days. Everybody's got allergies to food now. That's our killing karma manifesting, you know. That even what was supposed to nourish you actually harms you. That's the fruit of past killing. And we can see more and more of that. The environmental karma, you know, of killing. And all the good actions exactly the same. You get a human body, but let's say you've purified your karma, and that's why this first level of practice is so crucial. At first level of practice, entry level, junior school, urgent level, as Lama Tsongkhapa says, immediate, is at least stop killing. The others as well. Stop harming sentient beings. But let's just think of killing. At least stop sowing more killing seeds. At least you stop sowing more seeds, and at least you stop sowing more fruits of those four. At least that. And then the second most urgent level is purification, which we'll talk about. You've got to take care of all the seeds we've already planted before they ripen as these four ways of suffering. That's the first level of practice. And that's why this is junior school level. You can guarantee, if you live a life of morality, of virtue, living in the context of vows especially, which we'll talk about, you can relax and have a happy life and die with a happy mind, guaranteeing you'll get at least another decent human rebirth and have good experiences and have money in the bank and kind friends and good people and good food and happy mind, which of course you want so you can then start to practice your spiritual path. That's the purpose of having a decent human body. But there are causes of it. And there are causes of having a suffering life. And it's up to us to learn those laws. This is a basic level of karma. And every sentient being is covered by this. Every ant, every worm, every dog, every bug, every monkey, everybody who's been abused, attacked, raped, murdered, slaughtered, terrorized, tortured, every person who's ever had anything good happen, kindness, loving, compassion, money in the bank, loving people, kind people, everybody's experiences, every single being, it's the same law that applies to all of us. Each one of us did it. This is the part that's so shocking, because the view in our mind is so primordially deep that it's done to us. We've made that view up. That's a fabrication, Buddha says. And we've even made it up in terms of God, giving God the job of blaming and punishing and rewarding. Misconception, Buddha says. Karma is a natural law. We do it to ourselves. And that's the tragedy of our suffering, because every sentient being has ego grasping, and every sentient being believes we are innocent victims. That's why we get angry. This is the tragedy. So anger and attachment are so obviously linked to ego grasping that they're simply the expression of this dualistic view of ego grasping. The innocent victim, the entitlement of attachment is so stupendous. That's what drives all of us, this intense attachment, this view of entitlement that I deserve happiness, I deserve good things, and I don't deserve bad. That's attachment and aversion. And these are the three main poisons. So to unpack these psychologically is really powerful, I tell you. We'll understand samsara. We'll understand Buddha's view, I tell you. And that's why, if you have the view of karma, this lessens attachment and lessens anger. Not evident to us, but when we think it through, it's logical. So, two examples. These Tibetans, because for Tibetans, I'm not saying they're all saints, they're not. But for them, this view has been in their bones since they're born. This is the view that's been in Tibet since 8th century, because it came from India. And this is the view that's been in India for 5,000 years. So in the same way that we just assume materialism is reality, for them karma is just reality. But for us it's a shocking view we've never heard of, So they're brought up with this. It's in the bones of their being. And that's why, as His Holiness said, he's so sad now because more and more Tibetans are getting angry. But when we understand anger, it's the direct result of the view that you're an innocent victim. Think about it. That example I always use. Those young Tibetan nuns, in 2003, I think, I mention this story often. Richard Gere invited Dalai Lama to New York, and he also decided he'd invite some former prisoners who'd done some kind of spiritual work in prison, So he invited people like me who are working with people in prison. And then there were 20 Americans, like a whole cross-section of Americans, black, white, Puerto Rican and Mexican, male, female, all of whom had had some kind of, in prison for many years and had done some kind of meditation or something. It was a very moving day, very inspiring. They met His Holiness. It was an amazing day, wonderful. And he also invited 2 young Tibetan nuns who'd been tortured and sexually abused in prison in Tibet. So being little Tibetan nuns, they'd been brought up with this view, and therefore there was not much anger. And it's not evident to us, and let me try and prove the logic of it, of why anger is a result of no view of karma, and how having the view of karma lessens anger. I'll give another reason, even a more logical one later. I'll give another example, which I always quote as well. So these young women telling their story about their suffering, really intense, being raped, attacked, sexually abused and tortured. But it was very clear, I'd say, to all the Americans that they weren't angry. And we just don't trust that. We think you're suppressing. If you're not angry, we think anger, when someone abuses you because we think abuse is not fair, because we think we don't deserve it, because we don't have the view of reincarnation, and you've never met this person before, and that's logical. If you really didn't, I say this, and I mean it very sincerely, if the philosophical materialist view is the accurate view of reality, is actually true, and Buddha is mistaken in his view about karma, then it is correct to be angry. Because analyze what anger is. Look at the philosophy of anger. How dare you do that to me? That means you don't deserve it. And if you did begin in your mother's womb, then it's correct. You've never met those Chinese guys before. You don't deserve it. I agree. So anger is a natural, appropriate response. Now that's why we all have it, because we believe we're innocent victims. But these young women having the view of karma, that's in their bones. They have the view of karma, which means they've got a karmic connection, a personal history with these torturers. So they don't get angry. Why would you be angry? As my friend Jigdrol, the other story, a young Tibetan, this is 30 years ago, he was tortured, he was in the first mini uprising, in 87. And all the young monks and nuns were the ones who were the radicals demonstrating. And he got arrested, then got tortured, then he escaped, and then his father got murdered, brother got murdered, whatever, suffering. And he was in tears telling me the story. And I said to him very casually, do you ever get angry? And he laughed. Angry, Robina? What for? It's our own fault, he said. That's very shocking for our ears, but that fits perfectly when you have the view of karma. And for him, that's his natural, ordinary way of saying karma. That's real for him. That every experience you have is, of course, the fruit of your past actions. Of course it is. Like if you know consciously you're eating too much sugar, when you get the symptoms, you don't get angry with the sugar company. You know already you chose to eat the sugar, you got the symptoms. You don't get angry. That would be foolish. You own it. Well, that's the karma. That was natural for these Tibetans. And that implied the whole way they dealt with their suffering. They know why it's happening. That's the basis of their practice. And even at the end, one of them said, and of course, we had compassion for our torturers, because we knew we must have harmed them in the past, and because we know they will suffer in the future. That's why the view of compassion, which we'll get to, in this Buddhist view, is a very shocking level of compassion. It includes every sentient being, not just the innocent victims. And they weren't angry. Jigdrol, he laughed, he wasn't angry. That's very shocking for us. And that's why we've got to unpack these, what we call natural emotions, and start to unpack the assumptions behind them. And we'll get to understand that when you have the view of karma, that already causes you to have less anger and less attachment. Because attachment also is the innocent victim, that somehow is born, that someone made, and then attachment is like a sense of entitlement. It's very arrogant attachment. It's very greedy. There's this view that I deserve happiness. I deserve people to be kind to me. I deserve good things, which means I don't deserve bad things. But there's not an atom of logic to that. And that's the view of this attachment and aversion, which are the two main poisons, which are the fruits of the main one, ego grasping. They're all totally related, So what does it mean we deserve? It's not illogical. We mentioned it already, I think, Like I said, you don't look in your bank and be shocked and say, I deserve dollars. How dare there be no dollars in my bank? We would never say that. It's very logical, the reason, because we know it's our bank. We know that what's in there is to do with me. We know that. It's very clear. You don't look in the garden and say, how dare there be weeds in my garden? It's very logical you wouldn't say that, because you know it's your garden. That's the simple point. So when you have the view of karma, your life is your garden. What is in it, you put there, baby. So of course you wouldn't get angry. And of course you wouldn't have attachment. It's obvious. Because attachment is just like this arrogant, this hubris, this entitlement. Attachment is really shocking. And it's the source of our pain. But it's a complete misconception. It's a false philosophy. It's fantasy. It's made up by our minds. And we believe in it for eons. So the view of karma, which is not directly about the mind yet, is already powerful to help us to own our lives, to own our experiences, to grow up, to be accountable. It's very powerful, Lessons already. And then you're really ready to go to high school where you can start to really unpack and unravel your mind and be your own therapist. It's easier with the view of karma. Already you're becoming grown up. Already you're becoming accountable, And then it's easy to get in touch with these states of mind. Are we communicating? Any questions? Is it perhaps it's tea time?
10:22.
10:20. Yeah, we'll have a break at 10:30. Then we'll go over. Maybe we're going to. Sange's been preparing our place, right?
Yep.
Okay, so we'll wander over there at 11 o'clock. Okay, questions now. Yes.
Could you help us think about some strategies we might use with our friends and family who are not Buddhists, who feel fine about fishing and killing?
Well, no, it's not easy, is it, Kevin? It's not easy. I mean, there's two things. There's wisdom and then there's compassion, isn't there? So the only reason to give any advice to anybody, especially your loved ones, is you want to help them, right, isn't it? So that's why compassion is the wish to help somebody. But the crucial piece is the wisdom to know how. So let's say you see a person, your son's an alcoholic or your sister overeats. It's the same problem. You see them causing their own suffering, right? Isn't it? And you want to help them. But you know perfectly well, you can have as much wisdom as you like about health and what's best for them. You could really be wise and you could really be right about it. But you can't open your mouth if they're not going to listen. So that's where wisdom comes in. So, I mean, what can you do? I mean, I know when I first went back to Australia after I'd become a nun, and my sister Julie, I adore all my sisters, she's very compassionate, but like a lot of Westerners, she can't stand insects, so she hates the ants. So she'd kill all the ants automatically, naturally. She's a loving, kind person, incredible, compassionate person. So I can't sit there and have a panic attack and tell her not to kill ants. And there I'm a freshly minted Buddhist. So oh, Julie, hang on. Before you do that, Julie, wait a minute. Stop, darling. And I'd go to the ants and I'd say a mantra and blow on the ants before she killed them. I didn't ever criticize her. But, she'd laugh at me. Do you understand my point? What more can I do? No point in giving her a lecture. I just alienate her. Do you understand? So it's up to Julie if she might never, I don't know if she kills ants now, I have no idea. But there's only so much we can do to stop people from harming others. There's only so much we can do to stop people from harming themselves. So you've got to weigh up what's a wise way to do it. And you might never change people. You've got to accept that. Isn't it? Another funny story for Julie, another different story, same with Julie, my same sister. She'd been to Thailand and, she bought this Buddha head. Well, first of all, Buddha heads for the Tibetans, that they're beyond shock. They can't even bear the thought of seeing a Buddha head. It's like the most terrible, inauspicious thing just to have the head of a being. It's so shocking, So anyway, they're used to us weird Westerners liking our heads. So Julie had this Buddha head, and she was using it as a doorstop. Well, Buddhists think you put the Buddha up high, right? So what's the point of being shocked? And I'd pick it up and I'd go, oh, Julie, what a lovely Buddha head. Where'd you get it, And I'd look at it and I'd put it on the mantelpiece. Well, next year I'd come home, there was the Buddha head. Year after year, this doorstop, Then one year I came home and there was no doorstop. I said, Julie, where's the Buddha head? And it was up on the mantelpiece. She said, oh, isn't that a lovely statue, she said. It was up on the mantelpiece, So it took me about 10 years. I mean, what can we do? This is what compassion is. You see, your brother's destroying himself with alcohol. We can see it's naked, it's evident. That's as simple as anything, example. But and this is where our trouble is, and this is the real answer too, because we've got compassion, there's no question. But it's our own attachment to attachment is this junkie in us that only wants the nice thing. So let's assume Kevin's an ordinary person, like the rest of us, who's got attachment. So Kevin's attachment only wants things to be nice. So the neurotic part of Kevin looks at, let's just say the person fishing, the neurotic part of Kevin, which is the attachment, doesn't want to see this. It's too horrible. That attachment is what makes you nervous and unhappy, and then you have aversion and you wish it would all go away. But then that pollutes our compassion, which is genuine. You really do see that they're harming themselves. Do you understand? But our attachment gets in the way, and that gets us to stick our nose in where it doesn't belong, and to give lectures, and to bully our poor brother to stop being an alcoholic. Do you understand my point? That's not because of compassion. That's because of our own delusions, our own neuroses. And that's what we've got to really work hard on our own minds. When we give up attachment and aversion, then you'll have real compassion, and then you'll see there's sometimes very little you can do. Love the person for who they are and not find fault and not criticize. You understand? What else can we do sometimes? And that's the wisdom side, isn't it? Yeah, Chuck.
You mentioned abortion. In the Buddhist view, is abortion the sowing of negative karma for the mommy and daddy who may make that decision, or is it the result of the sowing of seeds of the sentient being who is going to be born?
But it's always like
the
that.
Interconnectivity.
Of course it is, it's both.
Okay.
So it's absolutely clear, it's both, you know. I mean, I always use my own example. I had an abortion when I was 23. So there I am, got pregnant, and this sentient being came to my womb. They had the karma, they won the lottery and got a human womb, but they also had the karma the karma of called experiences similar to the cause to die young. So I went ahead and killed them. And then the karma of the doctors and the nurses, and that's even heavier karma that I got them to do my job for me. So that's my negative karma of killing, and then the karma of the being to be killed. Absolutely interdependent. Of course it is. Wouldn't happen otherwise. I mean, yeah, that's right. Do you understand?
Thank you.
Yeah.
That was my sense, but
of course, exactly. Yeah. In other words, the karma of the people who do it, and the karma of those who've done to. You know, and then next life we reverse roles. They come along and kill me. So try and purify it, and it won't happen. That's the point.
Robina?
Well, yes.
Is there a distinction between, say for example, I asked Chuck to go catch me a fish.
Yes.
And he caught the fish and killed it, but I ate it.
That's worse. Now, not the eating part is another discussion, but the killing part. If you consciously do ask, if you say to Chuck, please get that fish for me, or you eat the fish and you think, oh, I'm so happy Chuck killed the fish for me, that's heavier than you killing it yourself, because you got someone else to do the job for you, like the abortion for me.
What about eating meat from a butcher shop?
I understand that. That's different. There's many things involved there. And I think part of the problem with this discussion, and there's no time now because we're going to have a tea break, we'll do it later, is I think we only talk about it when it comes to eating it. But I mean, if you think about animals, you think about, like we said about for our blessing for our breakfast this morning, if we start to think about all the sentient beings who were slaughtered for the vegetables, but we don't seem to think that matters because we don't eat them. As soon as we eat them, I think our problem is because we've got such attachment to eating, we make the killing of animals for food worse than killing animals for the vegetables. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? But in the end, the broader picture in Buddhism is the nature of samsara is such that just by existing we harm each other. We're probably killing countless beings every day. Do you understand? Whether we eat or not. Right. 1 point. Second point, knowing that, then the main concern is to try and do as little harm as we possibly can, knowing that our life depends on sentient beings, including all the vegetables we eat. You understand? Mm-hmm. So it's fraught. So the eating part is not the main issue. Another whole issue, of course, is we know, all the research shows apparently that the meat industry is pretty monstrous and is destroying the planet. That's another whole dimension. Right. It's another whole discussion again. But the one about whether you eat or not eat, it's like it's not the same as killing. You didn't actually ask the person to kill. The closer you are to the action, the heavier the karma. But if you kind of rejoice in the fact that someone else killed, you're conscious of that. Then because what your mind does is the karma. Karma is what your mind does. Right. And many people say, oh, you're as bad as the fisherman if you eat the fish. But I never hear anybody say the fishing rod factory worker is as bad as the fisherman. And if you think about it, karmically, that's much heavier karma because their job is based on, their whole life is based on making instruments that kill. That's much heavier than eating a piece of fish occasionally. 1,000 times heavier because your whole life is involved in it. Do you understand my point? Mm-hmm. So there's many things to look at there, many ways of seeing it. It's not as simple as eating or not eating meat. Do you understand? Mm-hmm. Mm. And so, again, the other thing is, and this is even with the killing of the mouse. Okay, what time is it? 10:30.
10:31.
Okay, we'll have a break now. And then I just want to say it to all of us, again, if we can, This silence thing is a really good practice, like we've been talking. But can we really be serious about it? And really, if you're really going to decide, and it shows we need discipline. I mean, like I said, I've seen this in Buddhist centers all these years, and I'm just as bad as everybody else. We're going to have silence, but we always think it's an exception. So people come and ask Christina something, people come and say to each other something. We'll just be silent. And that means from evening until noon, for the next 3 mornings, even now for the next half an hour, we can do it until noon, except in the Gompa we're discussing. Absolutely not one single word. All your difficulties later, you discuss it later. Try and literally ignore each other. It's a really difficult practice, you can see it. There's always a reason we think we have to say something or do something or ignore or say something to somebody. So it's a great practice. No one's going to police. I'm not going to police you. But it's a really powerful practice. Literally, for this next hour until noon, please ignore each other. An hour and a half. Except in the Gompa. So this next 30 minutes. And then the next 3 mornings, see if we can do it. Literally, keep your mouth shut. Literally, not a single word to anybody. You'll see how difficult it is, you know. So it's a really nice one to try. And with the thought that we're trying to purify our speech so we can get the power of speech so we can be beneficial to sentient beings with our speech. That's the main the motivation, the bodhisattva motivation. It's very marvellous. And of course it helps us see our minds. If we can. All right? Thanks, everybody. See you over there at the garden, up there in the cave in half an hour.